morning on this Thursday morning. What a wild week, wild ride we've had. We should call it tweet week, right? I mean, it's been one tweet after another, and the explosive moves following these tweets have been absolutely incredible this week. And that's what we're dealing with here, folks. So because of that, you have to move with the markets as they move and have to understand things can change in a hurry. And we've watched that time and time again this week. That's why we've got volatility trading where we have been seeing it. And we've seen this volatility index basically for the most part holding up pretty well, although we did get a little bit of a pullback today, and we'll see if that's something that's sustainable or not. So this is The Take, and I'm Pete Najarian for Market Rebellion. Wow, craziness. Well, let's just think about this for a second. On Tuesday, we had the tweet that caused the markets to drop about 500 points, right? Wednesday, that reversed. We had the tweet that caused some movement in the markets, and before we know it, by midday, we were up about 550 points. And it was a very, very kind of interestingly calm sort of a day, quite frankly, even with the markets higher, because the move was so swift to the upside that the markets got up there. They were holding very strong, and for the balance of the day, for the most part, they stayed at a very even pace. Now, that's why we started to see a little bit of a pullback, I think, in some of the volatility as we got through the day. So that really did stand out. But what also stood out was the broadness of the moves that we've seen. The broadness of the moves to the downside. It's not just technology being hit. It's not just industrials or financials. And the move to the upside. It wasn't just the semiconductors. It wasn't just energy. It's all of the different sectors all kind of moving in concert together. So what do I mean by that? Well, the broad participation. Yesterday, technology up close to 2%. And across the board, it was Netflix, it was Tesla, it was Cisco, it was Salesforce, all those various names that continue to move up with the technology side. Consumer, that was up a little over 2% as well. A nice, strong move. Gap stores, Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, Best Buy, you get the idea. Then industrials up about 2.25%. Well, within that, we had Caterpillar, we had Honeywell, we had 3M, we had the healthcare, we had Amgen, we had United Health, we had Alexion, some of those biotechs that were popping in there as well. Financials up about 1.5%. Names like Capital One, PNC, US Bank, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, all participating on these moves and all participating yesterday on that big upward move that we'd had. Matter of fact, when I was looking at the unusual option activity page by the end of the day, one thing that really did stand out for me was, well, let me read through a few of these and see if you understand what I'm saying. We had huge paper in JD. We had Fiserv. We had NEO. We had AMD. We had Tesla. We had Fastly. We had Marvell. We had Netflix. We had Slack. Sure does sound like a lot if you want to build a big picture. A lot of technology names that we were hearing or seeing unusual option activity in. And now some of that obviously in the EV space with a name like NEO. You have JD. We got all, I'm not saying they're all in the same category, but certainly sort of in that technology space. And wow, that's a lot of different names. Those are just the tech names. We had so many names that were hitting yesterday. It was pretty extraordinary. As a matter of fact, yesterday, the volume kind of leaked back a little bit. We had been closer and been over 30 million. We'd been close to 30 million yesterday. A little bit less than that, about 25 million contracts. Still 25 million contracts. A nice busy day. I mentioned volatility. It was down towards 28. That's down about 5% from where it had been. And a calm day. That calm day really was something I think that stood out for all of us because we made that jump and then we sort of leveled off, and that's where we sort of hung around for the rest of the day. Now you get into today, you got some positive markets. That's pretty interesting to see. A follow up to what we had been seeing yesterday. So those markets were looking up like close to 200 points, 190 points on the Dow, call it 100 points on the Nasdaq, and maybe a little over 20 points on the S&P. Early on, had a little bit of a dip. We started to see the Dow come back down again, which cut in half for sure, and actually down below that, then we started seeing a little bit pick up back in the Dow, and a lot of that being influenced by one stock. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But we quickly were up still about 130 points. The Nasdaq was only up about 50 points, so that got cut in half, and the S&P hanging around those 20s. Now, we pulled back a little bit more. I'm taking a look right now at the Dow. It's up about 86 points. We are approximately 40 minutes into the trading session. 49 points on the Nasdaq, so a little bit bigger percentage move right now coming out of the Nasdaq. And I'm looking at the S&P up about 18 points. So off of the highs, no doubt. We've cut most of those gains in half or close to it from where we started in the pre-market, and we'll have to see how this whole thing plays out. We all know things can change in an absolute hurry. Now, look over at the volatility index, down again, still trading about 27.5. That's about a 2% drop from where we were. So pretty significant to watch as we'd watched the volatility index get up towards 29.5. We obviously over the last couple of weeks have seen some 30s, very brief, very, very brief, but we have seen some 30s, and now we're pulling back a little bit here at about 27.5. Now, I mentioned there was one name that really stood out. The other day, we only had one name in the entire Dow that actually finished in positive territory. That was Procter & Gamble. This go around, we have one name that's absolutely a monster influence on what's going on with the Dow. That's going to be IBM. You take a look at their plans to spin off this infrastructure, $19 billion worth, a focus on the hybrid applications and AI. That sent that stock up significantly higher, about 8% higher. Might have been even higher than that, but looking at 8% higher, it's come off of those highs obviously now, but a pretty nice early spike seeing out of IBM. We've talked about this name for a long time. The huge acquisition not too terribly long ago when they jumped into Red Hat and certainly changed a lot about how things are going, changed on the leadership side as well with the CEO, and a lot of things changing within IBM. This is a move that was going to be a predictable move in terms of moving towards that hybrid cloud that much more. So certainly something that wasn't totally shocking, but now that the news is out, stock making a pretty decent reaction today. We'll see if that's able to hold on as well. So the one thing that really stood out for me today, though, the price of oil. Now, we had the NASDAQ up, we had the Dow up, we had all these other things up, but the price of crude, the fact that it was up $1 early, it actually pushed up towards 41 again, so recapturing that $40 level, up about 2.5% or so as far as the movement of crude itself, and that influencing energy. Energy by far and away the most productive right now. We're looking at energy, especially if you look over at the OIH, trading up about 2%. And those beta names within that service area certainly do stand out. Halliburton and Oxy and National Oil, Wilvarco, those kind of names all up significantly, pushing that OIH up about 2%. And by the way, the big names, they're producing pretty nicely as well. ConocoPhillips, Chevron, you've got Exxon, you got BP, all those names. I'm looking over at the XLE right now, and that's up about 1.5% as well. So pretty solid move. Now, what's really moving the NASDAQ? The NASDAQ now, it's recovering a little bit each and every moment that we are on right now, but it's up about 55 points right now as the Dow continues to pare back some of those gains from earlier. Pre-market up 200, now we're up about 80 points. But as far as the NASDAQ, you got the usual suspects, some of those big names that are contributing, but it's Tesla, it's the airlines, it's Facebook, it's also going over back to biotech as far as Gilead. You've got Google, all pushing the NASDAQ to the upside in a nice solid move as we're watching right now. Oh, and you can add some strength also in NetApp. You could have IBM, you could have Intel, you could have Cisco, all of those contributing in various areas in terms of technology. And the SMH also moving parallel with the rest of what we're seeing right now in terms of the market move to the upside. So got one unusual for you real quick. I had a bunch to pick from already. Again, one of those days where 5, 6, 7 stocks in the first half hour, very, very active on the unusual, and a couple of big size trades. One of those big size trades, Facebook. Take a look at Facebook. Now, again, super short term. I bring this up all the time because once you have the knowledge is king. And when you have the knowledge of the options, you have a much better understanding of how fast things can change and work and all the risk reward and all the rest of that. But one of the most important things is just understanding time premium as well. So this is one of those that definitely falls into that category. Facebook, they're buying tomorrow's expiring, Friday's expiring, October 9th. We're on the 8th, yes. 13,000 of the 265 calls being bought. Right around $1, call it. Now, stock was trading just below that level. It was trading 259.60. But these 265s, that's going to take a pretty significant move to the upside for these to pay off. But they have it today and tomorrow. And we still are hearing talks about ongoing conversations, at least, with stimulus and maybe more of a targeted stimulus. We'll see if they're able to accomplish that. That was something we were talking about going into last weekend. We're talking about it going in again to this weekend, but certainly something that sits right now on the table. And under those circumstances, I would think, and my guess would be, my hunch tells me stocks would definitely have a dramatic move to the upside, a very strong move to the upside if we were to hear something on that front. We'll see how that plays out. Guys, like I said earlier, knowledge is king. Understand the derivatives markets, market rebellion. We've got the educators, we've got the mentors, we've got the best coaches in the business. That's why you want to be with us. And the unusual option activity, man, it has been nothing but fun. You see a smile on my face yesterday. Followed up the day before, some of the best days in a long time. Really been active. It's been a lot of fun. And, yesterday we were on the halftime report talking about a lot of the different things, what's going on within the markets themselves. Certainly there is a lot going on. And within the options market, I got to tell you something, the activity levels continue to be at a very high pace. Folks, have a great day of trading.